Hi, my name's Sean Shaler. This is my friend Chris Ford, and this is Avatar The Last Podcasters, which is our podcast. It's all about Avatar The Last Airbender. And this week we are on to episode 4. We're finally kind of leaving, getting out into the world of Avatar. Episode 4 is called The Warriors of Kyoshi. And yeah, that's really it. Chris, how you doing?
Doing good. Doing good. Start a new job this week.
On
It's
Monday?
going fine.
So you've been there a whole
Yes, starting Monday.
you've been there a whole 4 days or so,
Yep.
and you haven't left yet. That's a good sign.
Yeah, it is, I don't know how to do my job yet, which is that's usually the case.
I would imagine
But when I
not.
do, I'm sure I would be great at it.
That's the kind of confidence you need going into a new job. I've been at mine for like 4 months
Yeah.
and I still got nothing, so I hear you. Well,
Mm.
anyway, I have like two random pieces of news that you'll appreciate that really don't apply to anything else. But first of all, I read some Firestorm comics, and I thought you'd be proud of me. But then I only made it through like two of
Ooh,
them
okay.
because he is a really confusing, complicated character, and he has way too many powers, and I don't like him. So
Is it the white firestorm or the black firestorm?
this is the
Or
White
both?
Firestorm from 1982. It is the Fury of Firestorm, the Nuclear Man, from
Mm.
1982 to
Nuclear, yes.
1990. And
See, I have a black version of Firestorm here.
is that like the 2004 iteration of Firestorm?
It probably was 2004 because the black one, I think he was introduced in one of the greatest comic books that I love, Identity Crisis. Um,
Is that the Flash?
Spoiler alert. No, it's a story. A superhero's wife gets killed, and everyone's like, we got to find who did this because this person killed her because he's a superhero. So now everyone's identities are in crisis.
That makes sense. I feel
Hence,
like I've
identity
watched that
crisis.
before. Maybe you lent it to me at some point, but I feel like I've seen it.
Uh,
Is there an animated?
I might have just told you about it.
That's
It's not an
possible.
animated movie, but I think I've just told you about it plenty of times
That's
because it's
possible.
one of my favorite comic books.
It definitely sounds familiar, and you're good at painting vivid pictures in my brain, apparently. So nice work. And then the other piece of news that's unrelated, but just if you hear it going on in the background right now, is there's a moth being born in my home. Somebody gave my wife some caterpillars, and they got to be like really big. I forget the name of it, but they got to be like really big, and then it went into a cocoon, and now it's
Like
coming
what
out of its
size? Like how
cocoon.
many inches?
So the thing that came out of the cocoon is probably 2 to 3 inches long. Like it's a
No,
big
okay.
thing, but it has like little Heimlich wings. It's almost like it didn't finish growing or something, or maybe that's how it's supposed to be. But it looks like Heimlich from Bug's Life. My wife says that his wings haven't fully opened yet, but it just looks like a caterpillar with tiny little wings. I am a beautiful butterfly, and that's all I can think of when I stare at this moth. But it is pretty cool, and it's got the dog's attention too. Like he's got his eyes on it, like he's gonna
Mm,
eat it. So something bad could happen in my house. If
mm.
you hear anything in the background, it's a dog eating a moth. So we'll see how that goes. So those are my two unrelated subjects. I'm not sure where those fit in the podcast, but I felt like talking about them.
Nah.
Anyway, I thought we would lead off with you mentioned you might have some notes concerning our podcast from 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I only have one note. That is that Commander Zhao, he is a commander currently. He doesn't become Admiral Zhao until the episode The Blue Spirit,
So at
which
the
is a great
very
episode.
beginning of the episode, did they call him Captain Zhao and then he said it's Commander Zhao now or something on that order?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
got it.
Yep.
We couldn't get that straight. I don't know the
Yeah.
order of those things, and my father-in-law would be
I don't
upset. I,
know.
I'm
Yeah,
sure it's not that hard to memorize, but I don't have it
yeah.
down. Well, just one mistake. I did. With that being said, I had to
Mm.
edit out a few of my own other mistakes that you don't have to clean up because I had the ability to get rid of the stupid things that I say. So it's not like there was just one error on my part. But anyway, well, that's
Yeah.
good. Just one
I
note.
do have I do have a great update. You know that commercial you showed in episode one
The
of
very first
Appa
one.
and Aang. I
Oh,
did.
what a great
Oh yeah,
commercial.
and then I mentioned that I was looking out on this eBay, and I was able to get this. I don't want to make the other stuff fall. I know, Cora, stay there.
There's going to be a terrible
Okay.
domino effect on that shelf on live podcast
It's
television. It's going to be amazing. That's a huge Appa. Oh my
it's
gosh.
pretty great.
It looks like, is that like a foot and a half long? Like, what are we talking there? That's a big Appa.
Uh, no, yeah, it's really good, and it has I really like the articulation of Appa. His head moves and stuff,
Yeah.
and he has little wheels here, so he kind of glides on the floor. Like he
That's
has a
funny.
wheel right there, so it kind of just looks like he's flying, I guess. But
Freddy's gliding very smoothly.
yeah,
That's, and
his
all of his
arms
legs
move a
move
lot.
independently.
Oh yeah, and then he also makes little
That
Appa
was
noises.
that was right in the mic. That was beautiful. It really captured that nicely. He sounds like a plastic version of a 10-ton animal. It's so scary. Oh, I wish Charlie could hear that right
But
now.
I won this on eBay for
You
four
won it
dollars. Shipping, I'm sorry, shipping was like $10.
because he's a
Um,
huge animal. I get it.
yeah, I know
So
when we buy stuff on eBay, we don't like to pay for shipping for some reason.
I do not. Well, because how does it work? When you apply gift cards or something like that, if gift cards and percentages off never apply to shipping, that's the big reason. I don't know. I don't
Oh
remember
yeah,
if
that
that's.
makes
I
sense.
think that's how it works. But so was it just Appa, or did it come with the other anybody to ride?
No, it was just Appa.
So
That's okay.
so now you have
I
your
have a
Zuko character
whole
from the
freaking
first week that can ride on Appa and be confusing. That's
yeah,
exciting. Or any number of
yeah.
pop bobbleheads.
It's funny because I think other used versions of this on eBay go for like $40. I would have easily spent. I probably would have spent $30 on this, honestly.
Sucker,
Once
I
I
could
saw it, I
would have
thought to
given it
myself,
25.
yeah. Once I saw it and it was there, I was like, I really want that Appa.
This is a pretty good looking
But
Appa, and
I'm very much,
I feel like your children can enjoy the Appa. There looks like there are very few small
mm.
parts to swallow. So
Yeah. I mean, I don't let my kids play with toys of mine.
it's not a
Really,
toy; it's an action figure.
like, like all these Batmobiles up here.
Well, that's
No, my
different. That's different.
yeah, my daughter's not. She doesn't get to play with those.
I. That's probably a good
She
policy.
she was really excited when I opened the box.
You open it in front of her, and now you're not gonna let her play with it.
Probably not.
You're adult. That hurts me. That hurts me. That's
Well,
painful. Well, if well, speaking of eBay, there's about to be a glut of Firestorm comics, about 20 issues from the years 1982 to 1989, spread out that go up on eBay. So if you're interested, you know what? If whatever, if you want those, you can have those. By the way, but anyways, to episode 4. Actually, first let's do a quick synopsis. So last week was episode 3. It's called the Southern Air Temple. So the whole crew went to the Southern Air Temple, even though Katara said this is a bad idea. A lot's changed in 100 years. So Aang gets there and he shows them around, and it's totally deserted and scary. There's a flashback where we meet Monk Gyatso, and then they go into the air. What is it called? The Avatar Temple, the Air Temple Sanctuary. Excuse me. And there's awesome statues of every
hmm
previous Avatar. And then they run into Momo, who's a lemur, and he's essentially a plot device to get him from point A to point B. Aang finds out Monk Gyatso's dead, goes in the Avatar state, gets really angry. And then on another side of the story, Zuko stops at a Fire Nation base because his ship is in disrepair. So that's where they run into Captain Zhao slash now Commander Zhao, and Zuko tries to hide the fact that he knows where Aang is. Zhao finds out, and then they have an Agni Kai, and it's really cool at the end of that episode. So that was last week, and that leads into this week, which is basically a pit stop. And that's what episode 4 is. They are making a pit stop off in the Earth Kingdom. I believe it's way far south in the Earth Kingdom. It's still cold there. At least that's the impression I get. Mostly because Aang
hmm
wants to ride a giant koi. It's called an elephant koi. And so that's what leads us into this week's episode, which, as you'll come to find out throughout this podcast, is not my favorite episode in the world. It feels a little inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. So, with that being said, let's get right into the first scene.
All right. Is this the first scene? It might be.
Yes,
Oh wait, no. Is it? Okay,
kind of.
I thought the exact first scene was with Zuko, um, where he's meditating, which I do love him meditating. You know, it also was a great it was a great imagery, especially because there was like flames and you could, you know, when flames are in darkness, you know, flames aren't still. That light isn't still, but you could just see the light kind of flickering off of his face. Thought that was great.
I
He was
think
really
that is
calm.
right after this. I think this comes first because she's sewing the pants and she throws the pants at his face. Regardless, they're
Is it?
both. That's
Okay.
essentially the first piece of the story.
Yeah.
So
Yes. Yeah. He pretty much says like Iroh comes in when Zuko's meditating. I was like, I got some bad news for you, and then he's like, you taught me I should be calm,
that's the
and then
quality of a great
he's like,
leader.
we lost. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Exactly. He says we lost the Avatar, and
We have no
then
idea where he is.
yeah, and then Zuko gets mad, and they look at a map. They're like, he's clearly a master at hiding or at, but no, it's not.
You're right.
Aang is
That is
just
come
trying to look
first.
for. Aang is just trying to look for the elephant koi where they're at.
You're right. That does come first because he pulls up the map and they're like, he's clearly a master of evasive maneuvers or
Yeah.
something crazy like that.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then, yeah, they're just
Yeah.
flying all over looking for elephant koi. Which brings us officially to this scene, then where
Yes.
Katara
Yeah.
is sewing a pair of Sokka's pants, and we get to good old, like,
Yeah.
chauvinist Sokka right off the bat.
hmm Yeah, pretty much. Also, Angus trying. She's sewing his pants. A really kind of minor business. Which then you see that. I feel like all throughout this episode, you see Katara's motherly side, or really her more responsible side, is really the case. I wouldn't say mother, but just she's responsible for a lot of their well-being. Um, Aang is trying to impress her because Aang is pretty attention hungry all the time. Which one thing he trained Momo to just like go into himself and grab marbles. And we learned in future episodes that Katara has not trained Momo how to go get things. We learned that in the Blue Spirit.
Momo answers to one
Uh,
person.
yeah, apparently. And then he shows her like him spinning the marble in his hands, which gets called back like years later in Korra, which is amazing. Um, and then Sokka's like, "Aang, don't interrupt girls while they're doing their sewing thing." So off the bat, you know, Sokka just being just so gosh, I forgot the stupid word.
Sokka-e.
Um, yeah, massage, yeah, Masaki, yeah. And
Misogynistic.
that's kind of the basis for this whole episode of it's a Sokka, very much a Sokka related episode. That Sokka gets his comeuppance, but also he learns a thing or two.
This scene sets the tone for the rest of the episode, and the reason that I don't like the episode is because we get the worst part of all three people. You get like attention
Yeah,
wanting
yes.
childish Aang, you get kind of snotty Katara, and then you get Sokka
hmm
being a Sokka, and it all comes together in this first scene. So then Sokka throws the pants at his face, and they still have a hole in them. And then Aang and he gets mad. He's like, "Please, you got to fix them." And then Aang's like, "Where we're going, you don't need pants," which is just a
I do
line that,
like that.
right? It's just a line
Yeah.
that I like. It
Makes
doesn't
sense.
really lead to much, but
Yeah.
anyway. So then they land on the seashore of a bay, and apparently Aang has found what he was looking for.
Yeah. I think kids, and I think this is like these earlier episodes uh, are more aimed at kids because anytime kids are in underwear, I mean, anytime people are in underwear on TV shows, kids tend to laugh at that.
That's
I think my
funny, just
daughter laughed
naturally.
at this.
Especially, he just flat out was like, "You don't need pants," and I'm like, "Yeah, that appeals to my childish
Yeah.
side.
What- yeah. I do love that line. It's a
It
good
is good."
line. But yeah, he's just trying to impress Katara really with this.
So
But
they
yeah, and the thing about I'll get into more later on how Aang is probably my least favorite, my second to least favorite episode with Aang. Nope, third. And how Aang acts
I don't have that
because
good a
it's just
memory for
all
episodes individually, but it's not my favorite version of Aang by any means.
yeah. The thing is, people give Korra crap all the time. I'm like, do you know how many times Aang was just an annoying little kid?
You're so defensive of Korra. You know what? Korra is annoying most of the time. Aang's got like 2 or 3 episodes.
Nah, Korra is not annoying. I think if we added it up, like we need an annoying counter here once we get to Korra. We can objectively look at these things and not
This
just be
is
like,
the
ah,
number of
Aang,
episodes where I
whatever.
hate this person.
Yeah.
He jumps in the water, which is really, really cold, by the way, as you see right away. And then he goes and catches this koi, and he's just trying to show off. Like he's riding on a koi, trying to get their attention, and he's just being a kid mostly. I shouldn't be too mean, but he's riding the koi, and then he's trying to get their attention, and they're waving and stuff at him, and he thinks it's because he's got their attention, but it's actually because the unagi is coming up behind him. And
Yes.
then, do I got that order right? All right, so the unagi.
Yes, and then he just runs on top of water and gets away from the unagi. He just Jesus Christ is it.
Yes,
And then he
he's straight
runs
up
into
walking on
Sokka
water. And then he runs into Sokka. I
on
did
the
count
way.
this one. Sokka isn't head first in anything, but he did end up in some
Counting.
snow. So I
Yeah.
counted it. That's Sokka count 3. That's 3 and 4 episodes. He's on a pretty good pace. So yeah, he walks in water basically or sprints across it. And so, Jesus metaphor, because this giant sea dragon thing chases him out. And then we finally get to some actual meat of the episode after this. They're basically on the beach here trying to slap some sense back into Sokka. And then, there's the counter. And then the Kyoshi warriors drop in from all around him and tie him up.
Yeah, so they sneak attack him, and then they chain him to this statue of Avatar Kyoshi, which at this point you don't even know it's Avatar Kyoshi. It's just a statue, or you don't even know who the heck this person is.
It's just a pole on the
Um,
bottom. You can't even see the person at first. It's
yes,
just a pole.
yeah, yeah, just a pole. And then they finally they blindfold him and they take all the blindfolds, and Sokka's like, "Where's the men who captured us?" And just so chauvinistic, like just assuming it was men. Um, and then and it's like, no, it was us that captured the Kyoshi warriors. You know, this is our first introduction to Suki. Um, and then they say, all right, just throw them back to the Unagi. They might be Fire Nation. And Aang, he says, you know, I'm the Avatar. Or they say that he says, oh, I know Kyoshi. Kyoshi's I'm the Avatar. Kyoshi was my past life. And they're like, no, you're not the Avatar. You know, it was an airbender who died hundreds of years ago. And then he airbends
400
the
years ago
ropes
for
out.
Kyoshi, I think, was born 400 years ago, I believe.
Yes, I think she lived to be 230.
It's a good life.
I'm right.
That's a good run.
Yeah. Life lifespan varies a lot in the show. I think if you think
I just
about it,
watched episode 5 after I watched this one. Yeah, it's very evident very soon that life expectancy is way better. They must have free Medicare or something. Like when Fire Nation takes over,
yeah,
they're gonna take away free Medicare, and I don't know. It's gonna get bad.
yeah, because Aang only lived to be, well, technically he lived to be like 167 or something, but his actual life is like 67, so he lived to be a fraction of Kyoshi. Now Avatar Roku was like 100 something, because you can kind of date back all of their time.
Only 67. He must have had some
But
bad habits or something.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe just freezing in the water. I mean,
He didn't
maybe
watch his
that.
cholesterol. Maybe you're right. Physically, he didn't age at the same rate as us, but over the course of 100 years, he probably still aged
Yeah,
in a sense.
that's yeah,
Some wear and tear. Maybe not. I don't know. 67 seems
yeah.
pretty young for an Avatar.
I do know Sokka outlived Aang.
That's disappointing to me, really. That's pretty disappointing, but
I mean, a
whatever.
lot of people outlived Aang.
Sokka eats
Spoiler
Sokka
alert.
eats blubber. Like that can't be good for you.
That's true.
It cannot be good for you. Whatever.
But then he says, "I'm the Avatar." The thing is, the crowd there. One thing, the Kyoshi warriors and that old guy there. I don't know what he does.
Kind of the
They're like, "Oh
leader-ish. It seems like a
gosh,
village elder.
yeah, yeah." Like it is true. It's the Avatar. Like they start getting real religious. I mean, I wouldn't say they get religious, but they get in awe about it. And Aang finally getting the attention he's wanted, he just busts out, "All right, and watch this." And he takes out the the marbles and spins it, and then we got here the foamy mouth
This,
guy. Like that is his legit name, the foaming mouth guy.
this village seems like, first of all, the ratio of women and men has to be like 4-1 in this island because it's
Yeah.
all women. And then you got this random guy that just foams in the mouth and screams, and he kind of creeps me out. It's,
No, I love it.
it's a good example of how highly revered the Avatar still is in certain regions. It is weird that they see him, like you said, religion. It's definitely not. It's more like celebrity here. Like these, I don't, I don't know any religion where they would treat their savior much like Aang is being treated in this episode. But the point is that he's still wildly revered, even though he's been gone for 100 years, and lots of people think he's just a myth. So that's kind of funny the different ways people are going to celebrate him as they become introduced to him over the series. So I think all wrapped up in this
Yeah.
scene too. I think I wrapped a lot up into this. There was a lot of screenshots I wanted to take, but I'm really lazy. But a lot of stuff happens
Yeah.
here. Like I really like where there's a guy trying to paint a portrait of Aang, and then like one
Yes.
little girl shows up with Aang, and he puts the painting back up, and he starts adding her, and he puts it down, and there's like three more, and he puts it back up, and then he puts it down, and there's like five more, and then he just sits the painting down and walks away, and they're cleaning up the statue. Like they're
Yes.
lifting up the whole town just because Aang showed up and proved himself to be real. It's kind of exciting. It's a cool montage.
Yeah, then also in that montage, like the girls are chasing him all around. In the commentary, which I don't have anymore, but I know that commentary exists. I almost feel like rebuying each season just to have a commentary, but then I'm paying like $15 just to hear commentary about something that I've owned twice.
I would let me
But in the
watch my
commentary,
extras before you buy it. Let me watch my extras and I can validate for you. But anyway,
they said they were going for a Beatles inspiration of girls chasing the Beatles, the music group, all around.
well, it ends, I believe. He's like in the air on a little air ball, like kind of hugging it, like you'd be floating on a beach ball in the water.
Yeah,
But he can't
yeah,
sustain it, and then he
exactly.
falls into him, and he's just carried off it. So, yeah, they definitely caught the celebrity vibe. So good work there. So it's a cool montage, and like I said, it shows sort of a different way. We've already seen how he was celebrated in the for the by the Southern Water Tribe. I mean, it was exciting, but not really because they ended up banishing him, so they didn't have a whole lot of reverence for him. And then he gets here,
Yeah.
and maybe it's just because they have recently had an avatar, like enough that it's still strong in their oral history, so it's that much more exciting to them. Probably not the case in the Southern Water Tribe. So then all this
Yeah.
montage is going on, and then sort of concurrently, Sokka finally gets what's coming to him.
Yeah, he goes in there like, oh, sorry to interrupt you, girls, doing your
Into this
girl
kind of a
training.
kind of a
And
dojo training building.
yeah, and then Sokka pretty much says like he's the strongest warrior or something,
I'm the
and
strongest
he
warrior
could
in my
teach them some
village.
stuff. Yeah. And he tries to like it's like mansplaining in the Avatar universe.
Never thought I'd get to use that here. That's good. No, that's great use of that word.
Yeah.
Man,
I mean, he's trying to be like, hey, I'm a great fighter. Let me teach you a couple things. While these are some of the top fighters, I want to say in the world. Um, and then he teaches them like, hey, try to block this. I'm gonna go, and then he punches at her, and then she just like, yeah, right here, she just
yeah,
puts up one hand,
this is the
block.
first punch he tries to throw, and it's like a real big wind up for a big right hook, and yeah.
Yeah.
So it does present another problem I have with this episode is that I don't know if I'm using the right terminology here. Everything feels a little sort of shallow and predictable, but it's still funny. It
Hmm.
still comes off fun. It's done nicely, and then to your point, maybe the strongest just individual warriors that we've seen so far because they later on in the episode they're taking on firebenders and they've got nothing but their fans and they're still doing fine. Like they're holding their own against at an extreme disadvantage, and it does a good job of portraying them as very good warriors. So um,
Yeah.
yeah, so he gets blocked, and then he essentially is embarrassed, and then he prostrates himself and begs forgiveness and asks if he can train with them. and they make him put on the dress, but they do let him train with them. And I was gonna see if you knew, you had mentioned that each of the types of benders sort of represented a real style. These guys aren't benders, but I
Mhm.
wanted to see if you had if it represented a realistic fighting style at
Um,
all.
I want to say that I mean, I don't know as well as the other bending styles, but I believe there is a legit fighting style based off of fans that I'm sure they drew inspiration from. I am not 100% sure on that. Um,
Well,
but
and even
yeah, I'll
even
look
thinking
in.
less about the fans and more about the idea that they're sort of using, let's call it like counter momentum,
Yeah,
defensive counter momentum is sort of the whole fighting style. So I'm sure that's based off something real. I'd like to know more about that. But they do
yeah.
train him, and he does get better. And at one point, he actually gets the best of Suki, and she actually gets pretty mad at it. It's sort of funny. It's one of my favorite parts of the episode, just because she gets legitimately mad. She's not even proud of him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the thing I do love about Saga is that a lot of times, whether it's forced upon him or not, he humbles himself very often. I mean, when he went to go, like
Usually, it's operator error.
yeah. I mean, there was the one time when he went to go teach, and he's like, "Yeah, I come from a small village. I'm probably the strongest person, but I have a lot to learn." And Sokka really doesn't, he doesn't have any bending or anything. So I think oftentimes one thing he doesn't think that highly of himself a lot of times. So he humbles himself here so he can learn from them. And yeah, and he puts on the suit and everything. And I think one moment I do love is that he puts the suit on, the dress on, and he's like, "Oh, I gotta wear the dress." And she pretty much like the green is for honor, and
The
something
silk,
else is
the
for
silk
power,
threads is
pride.
the pride running through their veins. The silk threads that are running through the fabric is the pride in their veins, or something like that.
Yeah, and then Sokka proudly goes, "Pride and honor," and then Aang walks by and says, "Hey, Sokka, nice dress," which is kind of it's funny. It's also Aang being a jerk.
It's,
So,
it's another
like you
example
said,
of this
it's
episode where you can chalk Aang up to being a little punk.
yeah.
Well, there's that part, and then I forget which scene it's in, if it's in this one or if I cut this in two, but it happens more than once too. Like Aang's like nice dress, and then later, when the Fire Nation starts attacking, the old guy comes up and he's like,
Yeah.
"Ladies, we need you out there right now," and he's like, "I'm not." Forget it. And, like, so I don't know. Even that's sort of a weird sign of him. Like, you know what? It doesn't matter. Let's just get to work. So,
Yeah.
first time we really see Sokka humble himself, because that definitely has not been the case up to this point. But it happens, as you mentioned, it happens more and more throughout the series, and it gets more and more sincere and self-aware in a good way.
Hmm.
So, good for you, Sokka. Okay, so that was this scene, where the old guy came up to the village elder. I don't Does he even have a name? And then because the Fire Nation has found them, it does like a telephone effect thing where they see one girl telling somebody like, "Hey, did you hear the Avatar's here?" And then that guy tells somebody else, and that guy tells somebody else. So before you know it, Zuko
Yeah.
knows where they're at, and he shows up, and he just instantly starts wrecking anything. One thing I would like to call out is this is the first time we see the rhinos. They just riding these giant rhinos like
Hmm.
horses, and that's pretty exciting. That's not the
Yeah,
most
those
part.
rhinos are amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting to ride a rhino. So yeah, but this is sort of the climax of the whole episode. It's the big fight. It's Zuko and not a ton of other firebenders. It seems like there's just three or four of them, but they're just ransacking this whole village.
Yeah, and that's the thing about this episode is that this is kind of a typical 90s cartoon episode where the characters like where Zuko is just the villain that's always going to be causing trouble. Like he's Team Rocket.
He's the shredder to their
Like
turtles. It's always him causing the problem in every episode.
and yeah, and then they get away. Like he causes trouble, they beat him or something, and they get away.
Team
Because
Rocket's a
this
better
episode
example.
really doesn't have that much Zuko in it. Like he comes in. This is probably the last 3 minutes of the episode.
Right,
Like
the
he comes in
first
the first
minute,
minute and he
and
comes in the
then
last three
and
minutes.
it's pretty quick fight. So the other thing, so
Yes.
we already talked just to hear about the Kyoshi Warriors are taking on these firebenders and doing well, just with stealth and their fans, so they're doing fine. But Zuko does get off, and he shows off some pretty cool moves here. I would like to say the other counter I'd like
Hmm.
to start is he does the spinneroonie again right here. He like clears out a
Yes.
whole wave of them.
Yes.
So I think he's got the, it's not a true spinneroonie. It's just a
He has
sweep.
it.
But he always starts from the ground when he does it, and that's what makes me think it's spinneroonie. So this is spinneroonie number two from Suko, and it clears like a
Or number
whole
one.
wave. No, because he did it
Oh
to
wait.
to beat Commander Zhao. Remember?
Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, Spider-Man number two. He does it again in another Agni Kai. He does it a lot.
It's his go. Miyagi taught him sweep. That's what happened.
Yeah.
No, it's not really a spinneroonie, but he always seems to start from the ground, and it does a good job of showing off how powerful he is here. Because, like I said, he
Mhm.
sweeps, I think, three different Kyoshi warriors just into the wall or something like that. So,
Yeah, I
um,
really do love this fight scene here. Even though it's really small, I mean, he gets quickly surrounded by three Kyoshi warriors, and they're very formidable. Yeah, he just does the sweep. Also, like the camera angle that it does, like you can see all three of them, but still with focus on Zuko. Yeah, he just does the spinneroonie, fire all over, and gets them.
I don't care for this fight because basically you have here, and then you go here, and the fight's kind of over. Like there's no closure to it. Like Sokka and
Yeah, it's kind
Suki are hiding behind a building while this fight's going on that we don't even get to
of.
watch. It's probably a great fight. I don't know, but whatever. We're here behind this building.
uh, yeah, because after, oh, and then during this fight, they dropped their fans, and and I was really confused for a while when I first started watching the show because I was like, okay, I got it, the avatars, their past lives, um, and then when they came up to Avatar Kyoshi, I was like, okay, she's an airbender. I thought she was an airbender because she has fans.
Makes sense.
Fans seem like they would be good weapons for an airbender.
You would
I was
think.
like, but this doesn't make sense though. Roku was before him, and then it was Kyoshi. This order isn't making any sense. Because Aang picked up the fans like really cool. They were on the ground, and he just picks them with the airbending, and then he does this like double spin air attack onto Zuko and just blast them off.
I
I was
can,
like, man, he should be fighting with fans more often.
it works really
Like,
well for him. I kind of forgot that happened actually. I was
yeah.
thinking my mind went here to just thought of this now. It's kind of funny that they're using fans, which kind of makes you think Airbender. They're from I think it's part of the Earth Kingdom, right? So makes you think of
Yes.
Earthbender. There's some of them that are wearing thick blue clothing that kind of remind you of Waterbenders. So they kind of got a lot of stuff going
Yeah.
on there. Um,
Yeah. Definitely.
and then they have no bending powers whatsoever. So they're just like, all right, let's just we want to be on the winning side, so we're just gonna do everything except for the Fire Nation. We don't want to mess with that. No, but it is kind of cool. It seems like there's some elements. I didn't think of the air thing until just now. I noticed the water bending clothes is the first thing you notice because like the village elder has on a big blue coat that
Mhm.
looks just like something soccer Katara would wear.
Everyone else wears blue. Yeah.
Everybody but the Warriors. That's true. Yeah. So kind of strange. But yeah, I would assume Kyoshi. You know what? Is there anything in that town that is like a demonstration of her being an earthbender? Like is there a killer temple or anything? I don't think there's any evidence that she ever I'm sure there's somewhere.
I mean, the island itself is a reminder that she's the Avatar.
It's just I feel like she should have had like
Um,
a I don't know. Maybe I'm probably making
I mean,
too much of nothing, but
her past, she actually has a really good, interesting past.
she does. It's one that I think
Like a lot
we
of,
will enjoy talking about on tangents. Definitely as we get deeper in this series, and then you've
yes.
even mentioned before in Korra and in some of the in between canon.
Hmm. No, yeah. So, yeah, like you said, this fight ends pretty quickly. Once Aang just freaking blows the crap out of Zuko, he just kind of has this weird look, like, and then he flies away.
He figures it out.
And
Like
then
he's
we
not
get to this
gonna.
scene here. Yeah,
And
like this isn't the fight that I need to be having. So he flies away, and then they're getting away here. I kind of do like this moment of Suki. I don't know if you like it or not,
I do
where
not.
Sokka apologizes. Okay,
Oh, that part I
well,
like. That part's
good.
fine. That
Let's
part's
have
fine.
a where Sokka, slows down for a minute, apologizes, like, I should have treated you like the warrior you are. I'm sorry. And then Suki says, I am a warrior, but I'm a girl too. And I like that moment because oftentimes when it comes to female characters, people like to, I feel like people like to pigeonhole them into into being like a straight up warrior or being a girly girl, or maybe they don't want them to be that way. Um, like a lot of them want their women characters just to be like
Kind of flat and one dimensional.
BAs. Yeah. But like Wonder Woman, I think she was done really well in the Wonder Woman movie that way. Like she loves Steve Trevor, but also she was a freaking one woman wrecking crew. Um, but she still, loves Steve Trevor.
It helps that
That
she
was
is
one of
not
the
ugly. It helps a lot.
that,
I have a
uh,
problem with this
but
scene though. That part that's all good. I love that Sokka apologizes. Like I said, it's kind of the first sort of earnest. So they've kind of gotten over the hump already, but this he actually apologizes. So that's cool. And then like you mentioned, it's nice to see some depth to a female character. But how old these kids? They're like behind a shed kissing like two
oh,
hours
that's
after
what you
they've
don't like.
met. How old are they?
It's just
They've known each
it's
other
like
for
a
like
summertime smooch.
two
It's
hours.
like a summer camp.
It's like it's way
People
different
have
than the
done
summer camps I
worse.
remember. And all I can think of this whole time is like, it's just because there's no dudes on this island other than Foam at the Mouth guy, which like he's not getting kissed anytime soon. There's old guy and Foam at the Mouth guy and the
One
artist.
thing that guy looks like he's like 24 but doesn't have a job.
Right, he lives in his mom's basement and he probably does
Yeah,
podcasts in his spare time. Like that's the kind of person we're dealing with there. Who am I kidding? We're both
yeah,
married. That
probably.
guy lives by himself in his mom's basement. But it's like these kids, they've known each other for a couple hours, right? Like this is all in the same day. And then that lends to the other problem I have. Maybe not the other. I have lots of problems with this episode, but I also don't like. It's still a good episode. I just several nitpicks, but I also don't like how fast Zuko gets there. It's like one. Let's say it feels like it's like all right. It's in the morning, and they get there and they ride this koi and they introduce, and then Zuko's a jerk, and then by the evening all these people are already tired of Aang, and Zuko shows up, and Suki's kissing Sokka behind the sheds. Like that's a really long and yet fast, action-packed kind of day. But maybe it's 2 days. Maybe I missed. I'm trying to think of
Uh,
when
I don't know.
they're eating. They're eating the pastries. Aang, does he say something
Hmm.
like dessert for breakfast? So maybe it's a couple days because
Yeah, because
he
they
says
wouldn't have
dessert
been
for
there probably in the
breakfast.
morning.
I can specifically remember it. So okay, so there's a couple days in there. I don't know how many days. Whatever, kids, stop that. Get out of there,
Yeah.
you little rascals. Get away.
But
Um, but it does wrap.
hey, it's just a cheat kiss.
It is. She's pretty appropriate with it. And Sokka,
Yeah,
as we find out through the seasons, he's a player.
he is.
He's not a one woman man. But this doesn't really wrap up the fight scene. Like it's kind of still going on. But basically, when Aang leaves, and the reason that he leaves is because all the Firebenders, all the Fire Nation people, follow him, and then it's kind of like fight over. So Sokka's trying to leave here. Oh, I skipped ahead. Didn't mean to. Sokka's trying to leave. I wish I'd captured it now because Aang goes back to the sea dragon. In my mind,
Unagi.
the Unagi. In my mind, he's a megalodon because I play too many video games. But the Unagi, and he essentially kind of coaxes him out of the water, and he's riding on him. And it's kind of a cool scene. He gets him to put out all the fires, like the town's still all on fire, and he just kind of gets it to cause like a big tidal wave, and he puts out all the fires, and
Yeah.
kind of fight over. Like it's a
One thing.
very quick, short anticlimax to the episode.
Yeah, and that old guy's like, "Thank you, Avatar." Well, I'm like, he the one that brought this here. What are you thanking him like that? Like he just, you're thanking him. I don't know. It was just the thank you wasn't needed. I guess, or it wasn't. He shouldn't have been that grateful. It's not like
He should have been like, yeah,
they
that doesn't
were
fix the holes in
impoverished
the
or
roof.
chained up before. Yeah,
Yeah, the fire's gone, but if it rains tonight, like it's cold here.
mm,
Um, on that same note, it's worth pointing out that at the beginning of the episode, the old guy is the one that says, we've stayed out of the war so far and we intend to do
hmm,
so." So now it's also just like this pop culture celebrity like comes along and throws his name in the hat, and then they're like, all right, I guess we're okay with the war, and the Fire Nation shows up and sets everything on fire. And then Aang leaves and gets the picture, and then, like you said, he says thank you. Like, all right, well, I guess we're still okay with it now. It's the politics in that
It's kind of
town are
interesting though.
a little weird.
I wonder, and I'm just not thinking about this. I wonder were they opposed to going to war because I mean the creation of Kyoshi was all about them not being involved with war.
It is an island
I don't want to.
too, right? By it's like it's separated. It's its own
Yes,
landmass.
It is a complete island, which is one of my favorite moments in the show. Um, but it doesn't happen until season two. Ugh. But
Don't get
yeah,
too far.
Kyoshi founded the island because she didn't want her people to be subject to war. So maybe that, or she no, her specific words were she wanted them safe from invaders. So maybe you know how ideology goes. Like someone has a thought here, and then oh, being safe from invaders means somewhere down the line means we don't get involved in wars.
Kind of just escalates upon itself gradually over
Yeah.
400 years in this case. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
so it kind of makes sense. And then that isolation, that's probably why we get some of those weird cultural things of, like I said, having, sort of waterbender quote unquote clothes and the fans and just the unique culture that everywhere else seems to have a specific, I guess, a more specifically aligned culture to their nation or to their
Yeah.
bending. So this is kind of an interesting mix, and maybe that's part of it is because they're sort of isolated and removed from everything else.
Yeah. The other weird thing with Kyoshi Warriors is like, where are their parents at? Like everyone else whose parents aren't around, I get it. I
Yes,
understand. Like Sakura, Katara, their dad is off at war. Their mom was killed. Aang just doesn't have any parents. His whole people's been killed. Zuko's dad burnt him, and he's well. That hasn't been. You haven't found that out yet. I mean, you pretty much know. And his
spoiler
mom,
alert.
you have no
God,
idea. But so far, it's like, well, I don't know where these girls' parents are. I mean, it doesn't really matter,
and
I
nobody
guess.
seems to care. I'm telling you, there's one old guy and a bunch of young girls on this island. It's creepy. At least the old
One
guy's
foamy mouth guy.
one foamy mouth guy. That's old guy's son. Like he had all these daughters trying to have a son, and they finally had a son. He's like, oh,
Gosh, this. Oh my gosh, this now sounds like Game of Thrones.
this was a terrible idea. So
Did,
anyway, that's
did you
that's
watch Game of Thrones?
I have seen up through season 4, I believe, and then I ran
Okay,
out of
so
the ability to watch it.
you know Craster, right?
Yes. Hmm.
There's Craster's Keep, which is over the wall, and pretty much the Night's Watch only has him out there because he helps supply them and gives them a shelter when they go over the wall, north of the wall, and they just let him do whatever he wants. Like, but he keeps all those girls himself. Like he has a baby. If it's a girl, he keeps it, and then when she's old enough, he
Those
has
weird
more
stuff.
children
Got it.
with that girl.
It's
But if
kind of
it's a
messed up.
boy, he gives it. He just leaves it out in the woods for the White Walkers.
I think I know it's maybe not right to point fingers at other people's ideologies, but I don't like that one. I'm
No,
not.
you yeah, I think it's perfectly fine judging people when when something's like that.
We all believe different stuff. I'm gonna say nobody should believe that in real life. That one should
Yeah.
stay on television.
Very-
That brings us to our commercial break. And so last week I did a bad creepy toy. I wanted to find a commercial again, but I saw this toy and it lined up with the episode, but I couldn't find a commercial for it.
Mm.
But this week the commercial our podcast is sponsored by the rhinoceros from the Fire Nation. I forget that. So it was on Amazon, I believe. Had the dimensions, and this was big too. Like the thing itself was like a foot long from I guess from like the
Yeah.
horn to the tip of the tail or something. Like it was a big rhinoceros. And I guess all that I
They
really want
made
to
some
call it
great
is
toys.
they are, and they're so detailed. And it was kind of expensive. Like I want to say this is like $25 or something. So it was kind of pricey. It's new in the box, but they're so detailed and they're very large. And then there's so many of them. Like I feel like you could put together like the whole Avatar universe in toys. Like they have everything, and this one just caught my eye because of the episode. So Really cool
Don't tell
detailed
me that
toys.
because
Your wife is going to be upset at me. It's going to be bad. I don't remember who manufactures them. I meant to look just to
I.
see and like do some manufacturer research. Totally forgot to do it. But they just all look like they're done incredibly well. So, yeah, cool Avatar Rhinoceros toy. There's tons of toys. I miss doing the commercial though. Like next week, I'm going to try to find us a video
It
commercial
is
because that was really
Mattel.
fun. Mattel.
It is Mattel.
That makes a lot of sense. Mattel, the creators of the Intellivision. I'd say it's a
Yeah.
fun fact. It's really not
This,
that fun. Hot Wheels,
these
right?
are
That's
made in
Mattel.
like 2005. Hot Wheels is Mattel too,
I
I'm
believe
sure.
so. Barbie, Hot Wheels, the guy that made Sega famous during the console wars, Tom Kalinske. That guy came from
Let's
Mattel
see.
previously. He also made
Yes, I
Barbie
have all these
toys.
toys here that I can reference things. Hot Wheels, Mattel does make Hot Wheels too.
What is that particular Hot Wheel? Is it related to Batman?
It's a Catwoman Hot Wheel. I get all the superhero Hot Wheels I can,
I feel like
or villain, and this
I
is
feel like
a
Catwoman would not
Catwoman.
shell out for that kind of a vehicle. She would just steal somebody else's good vehicle. Yeah, Mattel. Well, that makes sense. Like I said, but they all just look extremely detailed and they're all very big. Like you could have a very impressive Avatar universe in your home if you didn't need disposable income for other things. So cool
Yeah.
toy. I'm gonna try to find a commercial next week. Okay, that is such a cool such a hold it up just a little higher, just a little higher, a little more, and now to your left. Boom, beautiful, looks good. All right, you got it. He flew away. How do you? I forget what that's in the episode where Sokka's like, "How do you argue with a 10-ton animal?" Oh, Aang's trying to convince him. That's so horrifying. I have nightmares about that in my sleep. uh, Aang's trying to convince him that he's stopping because Appa's tired. And he's like, "You're tired,
Oh
right,
yeah,
buddy?"
yeah.
And then Sokka's like, "How do you argue with a 10-ton animal?" So ratings. So audiovisual, I did a 7.5. In hindsight, I wish I could take this back and make it just a little bit higher.
Hmm.
Because you get to see him riding the koi and riding the unagi and a decent fight scene. But then when I think about it, there's just nothing that there's no really intense music. There's not a lot of drama in any of the audio visual. Like there's just at no point does things just blow your like last episode we had just one or two great scenes we talked about that were just mind-boggling. They're so exciting. It's all we could think about. This episode doesn't have any of that. Nothing stands out. No good music or anything. It's still good. Nice to see some different color palettes again. Now we're finally starting to see some greens. We did see Zuko long enough that we got to see sort of the whole gambit. So I always appreciate that good broad color palettes in an individual episode. Story, it's a 7. It's a good story. It's got a beginning and an end. Unlike the last episode, like it is sort of its own standalone story. It's just not that interesting. Like I said at the beginning, it's a pit stop. That's really all it is. And it's an introduction to Kyoshi, and we also see the worst parts of all three protagonists. So a 7 might have honestly been too high, but I liked that we finally got a beginning to end story, and we saw some character growth, at least from Sokka and Aang. We saw some character growth from the beginning to the end of the episode, so I did like that. And then memorable, I do give it an 8, and I like this episode a lot. It sticks in my mind because of Kyoshi, because of the Unagi riding the killer koi. I feel like there's something about this episode where they're finally out in the world in my mind. Like they're finally out there and moving, and something about that sticks in my brain is like this is sort of the gateway to the rest of the story where they're actually getting out and about and saving people and meeting everybody. So something about this episode sticks in my mind, even if it probably doesn't deserve to, but it does, and that leads to a nice round 7.5.
Nice.
It's not a
All right.
great. It's okay. It's
We're,
a good episode.
yeah, we're fairly aligned, I think.
Yeah, we were pretty
So
close.
audiovisual, yeah. I only gave a 7. I mean, you hit on a lot of great points. Yeah, musically, there really isn't
There's no
anything great in it. I mean,
just
there's
during
no
the
real.
montage. There's just some very light music that you don't hear at any other point. Like some very light. That's about all I got.
Yeah, and visually, I mean, I like the scene with the beginning scene with like I explained before, with Zuko and his meditation. And some of the animation was great when Aang was out on the water, and I also like the Zuko Spinneroonie fight. Other than that, I think everything was so kind of basic. And I think the animation kind of reflected that. Um, and a lot of their talking, I think it just their natural because people are mostly sitting still a lot. Just the animation, I think, was just felt a little bit cheaper.
If it feels like we're
So
being if it feels like we're being harsh on this episode, I think the next episode that we watch is a good start comparison of like a good full exciting episode with lots of exciting audio visuals and interesting. Like I think the next episode's going to be a stark contrast where it'll be a good reminder of us like, "Oh yeah, that's why we rated this one low. It's cuz we got this other." I think it's going to be a good comparison between this one and the next one if it feels like we're being too harsh on this one.
yeah, so gave audiovisual a 7. Story weighted. Want to weight story 40%?
I'm sorry, I forgot to change the percentages.
Oh,
You
okay.
have
Yeah, that's
35 is your audio visual, and 50 for
I
your
think
story.
like
I
50.
apologize, forgot to change that.
Yes. It's
50 on
fine.
story,
Uh, gave story 7.5 on here. So we just kind of flip flop those two, I think.
basically.
Um, so Sokka did have some good character growth, but we did, like we mentioned before, kind of see the worst in them. I think the worst portion that I saw of Aang, Katara is being one thing. Katara is kind of a joy kill a lot of times,
I can
but
agree
she's over
there.
there gathering her groceries up, groceries for everyone, and he's like, "Hey, you want to go watch me, be on the elephant koi, or watch me get on the unagi?" She's like, "That doesn't sound like fun." He's like, "Well, doing these groceries doesn't sound like fun
Now
either."
they're just
Like,
carrying your
whoa, like,
bags, and like he just straight up trashes her. It's kind of
yeah,
harsh.
like, it was really harsh. Like, she is not just doing this for herself. Like, this is for them three. So Aang was a jerk in that. I just wanted to mention that.
He was a
Um,
jerk, and that's a microcosm of the whole story here, and why we don't probably like it as much. Though it just
yeah.
not our favorite sides to see of these
So,
characters.
and then yeah, this is one of those episodes where not much, the way the characters started is mostly where they ended. Maybe except for Sokka, he's a little bit less misogynistic as he was before. He's a little bit more open to women being great at fighting and being warriors. But for the most part, Zuko is the same. The story hasn't gone anywhere. It's exactly where it's at when we start this episode. And really, I think a lot of episodes are kind of like these first couple episodes are like that because we don't know what the driving force of this season is really until um, like the mid, maybe until like episode 10, where Aang figures out like, oh, I got to do X, Y, and Z by this time frame.
Right now, when
So
he's looking at X, Y, and Z, it really is a variable. Like he doesn't know. But yeah, there's somewhere in
yeah,
the
he
middle of
doesn't.
this season here where it kind of
Yeah, right now
clears
he's
up
just
and
like, oh, I
everything
want to.
drives forward better. This one
Yeah, right
really,
now it's just kind of them running from the Fire Nation and going wherever Aang kind of feels like he wants to go,
yeah.
whether it's because he wants to go to places he's been before, or whether he wants to go ride this animal or this other animal. So, like I said, it's this story. I did really enjoy about the story that it helped me understand more about the Avatar, and I just love getting any type of visual cues or any type of story elements back to previous avatars. Always enjoy that. So that's what made me bump it up that half a point.
That
And I
gave me some
love,
bonus points as well, just to see a former avatar in the flesh. And it's not very often that you see, not in the flesh, in the
mhm.
wooden representation. But it's just not very often that you see that happen in the other places that we go, where there's a statue and a strong oral history of somebody that recent. Um, this
Yeah,
is kind of a unique case in that, so that got brownie points for me as well.
yeah. And the whole island named after one avatar.
It's kind of a cool deal. Very few
Yeah.
avatars can probably say that.
And I gave it a 7.5 for memorable.
This one's
And it
15%
really,
weight.
yeah, 50% weight. Um, And really, I think I gave it this much because it was my first introduction to Avatar Kyoshi, who is, I mean, it's hard to say she's one of my favorite avatars because really you only get to know five av six
Ish, yeah,
six
ish,
avatars, really.
something like that.
Um, yeah, and but I just love any type of knowledge or background I can get from her. I love every time that any type of lore is dropped from her. She would be a great character to explore more because she really has her impact that she had as her the things she done in her lifetime has had strong lasting impacts on things even through Aang's time as Avatar and really possibly even through Korra's time as the Avatar. Yeah, definitely in Korra also.
There feels like there's a pretty direct connection, like a tangible connection there still. And
Yeah,
she might be the
which I guess I
most
can go ahead and
recent or
explain.
the oldest one that you can say that for.
hmm Um, yeah, except for Avatar One, who literally started it. But
Different
I'll go ahead and
beast.
mention this
Different
with
beast.
Avatar, yeah, with Avatar Kyoshi because it's not mentioned in any of the episodes. But well, maybe I should wait till we get to the Dai Li and stuff. But she created the Dai Li, which Dai Li is this earthbending group
Bunch of jerks
who,
is what they are.
yeah, pretty much. But she created them for very noble reasons. So, like I said, she has continuing, lasting impact on the Avatar universe.
That's another, you mentioned earlier something about ideologies and evolving. That's another good example.
hmm
And like when we say
Yes.
evolve, we don't mean from one leader to the next. We mean like minute ideological shifting over hundreds of years. Like there's not like one guy came along and turned the Dai into jerks. It just gradually
Yeah.
happens and things like that. And that's
It's funny
fun.
how this.
Yeah.
It's funny how this show does that. Like now that I think about it, they do it several times. I mean, with
I think that's how real
the
life happens, though. It's probably a very accurate
no,
demonstration of how ideologies
yeah,
change.
exactly. I mean, things get so freaking uh, warped from their original purpose. Um, I mean, the Fire Sages, which we'll learn. I mean, they used to be all about serving the Avatar, and then it became about serving the Fire Lord. The Sozin, the first Fire Lord, who, dang, I'm getting real. Like, he first started the war because he wanted to expand the greatness of the Fire Nation. Then it turned more into a real racist thing of like, Fire Nation just need to kill everybody type of deal.
Got
But
pretty dark, yeah. Um,
yeah,
no, I think that's probably. I mean, point to just about any ideology that we have in real life here and be like, is that how that really, what that was intended for when it started? Chances
yeah.
are not. No, it's kind of cool
Oh
how that
yeah,
pops up
definitely.
throughout the show. I can confirm that this math is correct. I did some quick math in my head for your percentages, not for mine, and this math is still correct.
Okay, yeah.
So
Man, so we're really close.
that rounded us out, averaged out with our down to like third decimal place. It was a 7.4, which is easily our least favorite episode to this point. But to be fair, it's a very transitional episode. You mentioned up until episode 10 or something like that. We kind of feel a little loosey
Yeah.
goosey. I don't even care about this episode anymore. Already looking forward to the next week's. But 7.4, I think that's probably where most people would have it relatively to other episodes. I don't think anybody would shed any tears over harsh ratings on this one. It has some qualms. It has some issues. Any particular closing thoughts, stuff that we forgot to mention or talk about?
No, I mean, I think this episode probably gets better when we get reintroduced to Kyoshi a couple other times, and then we get reintroduced to Suki. Um, so
Its
yeah, so
impact
that's
grows as the season goes on.
yeah. This episode by itself is fairly forgettable, but the characters aren't.
The thing that will keep me always remembering, and you kind of had the same thing, is it's a cool introduction to Avatar Kyoshi, and it's a very unique setting. It's probably unlike any other setting that you see in the world of Avatar, probably ever. It's very unique, very very remote,
Yeah.
very different. So that's kind of cool. But
Oh, something we didn't touch on is the actual design of the Kyoshi Warriors. They take clear inspiration from
The Teenage Mutant Ninja
I
Turtles.
can't
Just kidding.
no from I forget what there is that name, but some cultural thing in Japan with women and painting their faces. Oh, or is it China? I'm sorry, I don't. I
I'm culturally ignorant, so I'm not gonna jump in here. But
It might be China. And the only reason why I say that is because of Mulan.
it's, that's a good. We just
'Cause
watched that on Netflix like 2 days ago.
Mhm.
No, I
Yeah,
didn't.
and
Just
also one thing we haven't really touched upon is just the diversity of the show, which I think is amazing. Even though they don't have any black people in it, it's okay. We'll take this L. And-
you just referred to it as an L. Oh, that's great. All right. It's worth pointing out. I don't think we have any listeners that only listen. I think anybody that does this show probably gets it on YouTube, so they can probably see that you are black. So that's fine. But if there's anybody out there who just listens, Chris is black. Take that for what you need.
yeah,
I hope that adds some context. I'm sure nobody just goes to Mixcloud, so it's probably not an issue.
uh,
We'll take
but I
that.
mean, because it's a show, and that's the thing about like anime. And the show is inspired by anime, but in anime, there's not a lot of black people in it
There is not.
ever.
There is not.
Uh, and then in the show, also to be fair, there's zero white people in this show. Also, so they're like, we're gonna be really diverse. Like the we're gonna be real diverse, but not include any white people or black people in it.
My
We're that
mind.
diverse. But the Earth Kingdom is well, okay. So the Fire Nation is all like Eastern Asian people. Um, Probably more Chinese or Japanese influence there. And then the Water Tribe is they're either Pacific Islanders or Native Americans. I think of them more as Native Americans just because of their clothing.
I would say there's
And
enough
then
similarities there, or drawing inspiration from
yeah,
both.
yeah. And then the Airbenders are more like Tibetan monks. And in Earth Kingdom, they're the most diverse group. I mean, with their whole freaking huge continent, they have, some clear Eastern Asian influence and also some Middle Eastern with Middle Eastern, sorry, Asian also. With like the Sandbenders, I think they're clearly more Middle Eastern. And then you got way down in the south. I don't know what those guys are with the
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 swamp,
foggy swamp.
the swamp
Yeah,
people.
the swamp people.
That's
They
it.
talk redneckish, but
I
I
was
don't
gonna
know
say they
what
sound like
they
white
are.
people to me. I don't.
No, we're gonna have both white people and black people take L's here. Okay, black people can't be the only one not in this show.
You know what? It's fine. We can sit one out. It won't kill us.
The thing is, I always try.
It is a very diverse show. Covers a pretty expansive region. It seems like it
Yeah,
mostly has origins. I mean, it all seems tied back to Asia, which Asia is a huge continent, but it
yeah,
seems like it mostly ties back
yes,
to
yeah.
Asia. But it's kind of
The
cool.
thing is, so a lot of times I try and think about how to reboot the movie of Avatar. So I think about the cast. So like, all right, if I won the lottery and I won, I don't know, $1 billion, I would go to Hollywood and try and make movies. I don't need more than $1 billion, but whatever. And Avatar would be one of my first
Do a
movies.
low
All right, how would
budget
I
film. That's all
cast it?
right.
I mean, it'll probably cost a good 200 million to make, and I'll have another producer anyway. The main cast would have to be really close to their original. Like Aang would have to look like Aang and be Aang. Katara Sokka would have to be Native American, and Zuko had to be Asian, um, Chinese or Japanese or something Eastern Asian, and Toph would have to be that way. But then I started thinking about the side characters. I was like, man, once we get to Boomy could be like black. He could be Morgan Freeman. Or thing is, they
I
look
have the
similar.
most
I would definitely
powerful
cast.
earthbender you will ever see.
Yeah, yeah. And then
I'm
Jet,
so excited for
Jet.
Boomy.
Jack could definitely be black. I mean, he pretty much has a fro, and also he's smooth talking. I could just imagine, not that white people can't smooth talk, but, but we're getting playfully racist here. Uh,
I'm not gonna argue. I don't know if you see me try to smooth talk, but it's not a good representation of anything. I
and then
can't
I was trying to
believe
figure out who could be.
we just talked about all these different
Also,
races. We didn't even talk about the fact that Juan was the original or the original Avatar. His name is Juan. That's gotta whatever. I don't know what it
yeah,
means, but it's
yeah,
interesting. It's interesting. I do wonder
no.
where that inspiration came from on the creative side. But anyway,
I think they went one and was like Juan. He's number one
Juan.
and Juan, Juan.
That's kind of.
Yeah,
I'm sure they've never heard that joke before.
yeah, I know. All right,
All
we went
right.
off on a nice end tangent there.
We ended with a discussion of cultural diversity in the show, which is good because it really is. It has a lot of diversity in it. Even if
Yeah.
you remove the
Yes.
connections from real life, they do a good job of creating diversity in the show just in and of itself. Like I said, even if you
Yeah.
get away from the sort of us maybe picking and placing diversity connection, it
Yeah.
stands
I
on
mean,
its own.
not only with not only with race, but with gender and with age. Like everyone, any character, in definitely disabilities.
Lifestyles of all
Um,
types.
yeah. Yes. Yeah. The show was miles ahead of itself. Was ages whatever terminology you want to say. It was ahead of its time.
In terms of bringing that kind of stuff into a lighthearted cartoon that which we believe isn't particularly lighthearted. It's a very serious cartoon. That's why we're doing a podcast about it. But yeah, absolutely stands on its
Yes.
own. What a great way to. That's a perfect way to end this episode. But so that being said, that's the end of this episode. We will do episode number 5, which there again, I don't know how it's gonna rate. I got to think about it a little bit, but it is one of my personal favorite episodes where it goes. I get
Mm.
pretty excited about this one. So looking forward to the 5th episode. Probably a couple weeks because life's a little crazy right now, and not that I do a ton of editing because I don't know how, but enough that it'll probably be a couple weeks. So with that, thank you all for listening slash watching. All two, maybe three of you. There was more than 2 or 3 views. That makes me feel good on the last one. So thank you very much, Chris. Thanks for calling over. I appreciate it. I will talk to you in a couple weeks.
All right.